another one of our podcasts. Welcome to the xyspark podcast. This is the podcast for men, where we seek to normalize conversations about men's mental health. It is a Monday, and the theme for our podcast today is Motivation Monday. Motivation Monday. We hope that you guys all had a wonderful, amazing, exciting weekend. For those who are fans of football, I hope that your team won. We know that, those guys, they went in there seeking a third win, but the Eagles upset them. So we hope that whichever way it went, you were happy. Congratulations to the Eagles fans. Next time around, KC, we know that you guys went in and you did your best. But shout out to all the teams, all the supporters. Shout out to you. And I also wanted to send a shout out to all those who were able to provide food for as persons were sitting, persons ordered wings and pizza and whatever it is. Persons went out and gathered with friends to watch the game together. Whichever way it went, we hope that your weekend went well. If you're not a football supporter, whatever you did, we just wanted to say that we hope that it was fulfilling. You might have spent quality time with family. You might have worked on yourself, did some personal development work on yourself through the weekend. Whichever way it went, we hope that it was as rewarding as you were hoping it to be. We also want to send a shout out to those who joined the podcast live yesterday. We had a beautiful conversation with a special guest, Brandon, who shared from his own experience, his own story. And we hope that you can go back and listen to that podcast episode on the Podbean app or on Spotify or on iTunes or even on Apple. It's out there. So go listen to it. We also wanted to remind you guys that we do offer live life coaching calls right here in the moment. So every weekday morning we are here live at 5:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, and we are seeking to create a safe space for men to come and talk about their mental health, because we know that mental health is not a myth, and all of us as men, we are impacted by mental health of in some way, rather, shape or form. And we want to see to normalize conversations right here on the XY Spark podcast. Right now, we are live on TikTok. So, shout out to all those who are joining us live on TikTok. Please type in the chat where you are joining us from. We would like to acknowledge you. I want to say thank you for being here. For those who are joining us live on YouTube, we appreciate your presence, and please type in the chat on YouTube where you're joining us from as well so we can acknowledge you. We also continue to encourage you to like, subscribe, share, invite your friends to come along, and let's talk about our mental health. We're also live on the podcast. We're live on xyspark.podbean.com. And if you'd like to join the conversation, just go look for the podcast xyspark.podbean. That's PODBEAN. So that's D for dog and B for Barry, EAN.com. And you can join in the conversation. It's Motivation Monday. And today we are talking under the caption mindset medicine. And guys, mindset is such an important thing. You see, what we want us to understand is that mindset is a powerful tool for success and survival, or for sabotage and stagnation, right? Mindset, where our mindset is at, it's a powerful tool, right, for survival and success, or for sabotage and stagnation. So, we are going to be talking today about some mindset medicine. We want to look at how do we create the right mindset that's going to help us to make it through some of the tumultuous and chaotic times in which we live. There's a big talk, there's a huge talk now. Many persons are worried about tariffs. There's a lot of talk about tariffs. There's a lot of talk about the economy and what's going to happen next. There's a lot of talk about so many different organizations and companies are strike. They're asking for more wages. There's in Canada, there's a huge thing going on in Canada Post. There's a huge thing going on with certain health agencies and health services, government operated, and there's a panic, there's a worry, and this panic and this worry is causing a lot of irrational thinking. And today, our podcast is going to be focusing on how to pinpoint when we are having those irrational thinking, and what we can do. So we're talking today about mindset medicine. Now, one of the things that we do a lot to ourselves is that we get into what we call in psychology emotional perfectionism. Okay? And what emotional perfectionism is when we tell ourselves, I should always feel happy, I should always feel confident, and I should always be in control of my emotions, right? That's what emotional perfectionism is. I should always be happy. I should always feel happy. I should always be confident, and I should always be in control of my emotions. So this way of thinking gets us into that space where there's what we call in psychology emotional perfectionism, because we feel that if a day comes and we're not happy, then something is wrong. Or if a day comes when I find that I'm a little bit out of control with my emotions, then something is wrong. Or if a day comes when, hey, I'm not as confident as I should be, then something is wrong. So emotional perfectionism is one of those irrational thinking patterns that we create from time to time over time. And it hurts us, it harms us, it prevents us from being successful. It oftentimes causes us to stay stagnant, like we're stuck in that funk, or where we feel like we're failing, right? So emotional perfectionism is one of those things that you want to be aware of if you are going to feed your mind the right medicine that's going to help you to manage and cope with uncertainty, to cope in chaos, and to be more confident. So that's big point number one. Big point number two is that there is what we call performance perfectionism. And this is going out to just each and every one of us. Performance perfectionism is when we are tell ourselves that I must never fail or make a mistake. That's performance perfectionism. I must never fail or make a mistake. And thinking that way prevents us from really, giving ourselves grace, having self compassion. When we're in that space where there is this performance perfectionism, we don't give ourselves any room for error. We feel that we should always get it right. And sometimes we're in that space where, hey, if I don't get it right the first time, I'm failing. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. All right. I don't have, enough. How do I say it? I don't have the stamina to get to my goal. So performance perfectionism prevents us, guys, from really, giving ourselves room to sometimes absorb or soak in that there are going to be times when I don't get it right the first or the second or the third time. And it helps us to be totally okay with that, because now we understand that that is just a part of the journey, right? I don't need to be perfect. All right. I don't need to get it right the first time. And if I don't get it right, it doesn't mean I'm a failure if I don't get it right the first time. But performance perfectionism sometimes cause us to get into that space where if we don't get it right the first time, then hey, I failed. And I want to say this to you guys, I'm speaking to you specifically right now. If you are that man who you have been embracing perfectionism, I want you to take some time right now to forgive yourself, to let that go. I want you to take some time right now to acknowledge that not because I did not get it right the first time, or not because I did not get it right the second time, or even the 10th time, it does not define your reality. You still possess the ability to do it. And you have got to move away from this performance perfectionism because this way of thinking does not help you to be successful. It actually helps you to feel stagnant. It helps you to feel unfulfilled, and it deprives you of experiencing life at its fullest. So, if there's performance perfectionism, I would like to challenge you to move away from that, break that, okay? Create a new mindset, right? Because performance perfectionism does not give your mind the right medicine that's going to help you to evolve into experiencing life at its fullest. So that's big point number two, performance perfectionism. Big point number three is perceived perfectionism. And what we're exposing in this podcast today is some of the rational thinking patterns that we sometimes find ourselves being stuck in. And when we're stuck in these irrational thinking patterns, it harms our ability to be successful. It harms us from reaching our goals, right? And so I just wanted to pause to say thank you to all those who are joining us here on the podcast. This is the XY Spark podcast, the podcast for men, where we seek to normalize conversations about men's mental health. And we are here today. It's a Monday. The theme is Motivation Monday, and we are under the caption Mindset Medicine. Right now, we are live on the YouTube channel, we're live on TikTok, and even on the podcast. So, wherever you are around the planet, we invite you to join us here weekday mornings at 5:30 a.m. Mountain Standard Time to participate in these conversations where we seek to create a safe space for men to talk about their mental health. We also offer live life coaching calls right here on the podcast. So if there's something that's going on and you're here and you'd like us to chat about it, don't feel like you're going to be throwing off the conversation. We are open to engaging and joining with you to facilitate a conversation as it relates to life coaching and empowerment. So, our theme or caption today is mindset medicine. And so far, we have talked about two pointers. Big point number one was if we are in that space of emotional perfectionism, we want to look at how we break that. The second point is about performance perfectionism, and we were just about to give you big point number three, which is perceived perfectionism. So, what is perceived perfectionism? Perceived perfectionism is when we are in that space where we say to ourselves, people will not love and accept me as a flawed, vulnerable human being. People will not love and accept me as a flawed, vulnerable human being. And how do we know when we are caught in this cycle of perceived perfectionism, when we do a lot of overcompensation? Are you that guy who live your life? Are you that girl, for our ladies who have been joining us on the podcast, or ladies who join us live on TikTok? Are you that man, or you that woman, for our female followers, who you live your life overcompensating? You live your life trying really hard to fit in. You live your life because it's almost as if you're trying so much to get noticed, to get accepted. you go out every single day, and by the end of the day you're exhausted because you're trying so hard to be somebody that you're not. You're trying so hard to be the cool one in the group. You're trying so hard. You're the loudest. You try to compare yourself with everybody else because in your mind that perceived perfectionism has caused you to create this storyline, this message, that you constantly repeat to yourself, that hey, people will not love me, people will not accept me as a flawed individual. People will not accept me as a vulnerable human being. So I have to overcompensate. I have to overdo. I have to overspend. I have to be louder than everybody else. I have to walk more, sort of brawling than everybody else. I have to be that person because if I'm not, persons will not like me. And if that's how you are living your life, that is not the right medicine that's going to help you to create the right mindset. And our caption is mindset medicine. So if you're in that space where you're stuck in this perceived perfectionistic space, then it's going to be valuable and it's going to be important for you to confront this perceived perfectionism so that you can heal from that. Whatever is going on there, you have a responsibility to yourself first to confront this perceived perfectionism so that you can create a new mindset, a mindset where you are celebrating your authenticity, a mindset where you are loving yourself, where you're appreciating yourself, where you're valuing yourself for who you are, where you're consistently connected and committed to doing the work that's necessary, that's going to help you to heal and to grow. That's going to help you to have a mindset that is not wrapped up in an inferiority complex, but a mindset that's going to help you to see the world through a new lens. So that's the perceived perfectionism. The next piece that we struggle with, that we want to understand, want to wrap our heads around as men, is what we call the fear of disapproval or criticism. So many times, so many of us, we struggle with that, the fear of disapproval or criticism. And we get into that space where, because we fear disapproval or criticism, we say this to ourselves: I need everybody's approval. And I'm going to tell you this, guys, that's unrealistic. That is an unrealistic expectation. And if you are a man who you live your life that way, you're actually harming yourself, you're hurting your relationship, you're hurting your mindset. So you have to create a mindset that's going to help you to move away from that space where you're telling yourself, hey, I fear, there's a fear I have of disapproval or criticism. Listen, guys, I am not going to make my presentation laborious today, but I just wanted to remind you of this, guys, that this mindset medicine that we talked about today is just the first part of a series. I want to invite you to join me again tomorrow morning, right here on the XY Spark podcast, where we will continue our conversations about mindset medicine and what that's going to look like. In the meantime, we want to encourage you to be mindful and keep working on yourself. Until tomorrow, we just want to say that at XY Spark, we believe that there is a spark in you and in you. And we will see you again tomorrow morning for another episode. Have a fantastic day.